Welcome back to our studies on the book of Revelation. I hope you have been not only enjoying these studies, but that you have been blessed. So far, we have been about 3/4 of the way through the first half of Revelation, but there's a lot more to come. Today, I want to go strangely to a different book. We are in the book of Revelation, but we are going to go to another book because it impacts very much on what we're about to see in the book of Revelation. I'm going to look at a mysterious book and its message. Now, in our last presentation, we looked at the seven trumpets. How does this relate to the seven trumpets? Stay with me, and we will have the answers to this question. Now, I'm going to go to the book of Daniel, and I want to read a passage from the 12th chapter of Daniel. Please listen carefully as I read. It says, "And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and an half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end." Daniel 12 and verse 13 says, "But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of the days." Let's take note of a few things here. We're in Daniel chapter 12. Notice, Daniel sees an angel standing on the river, point number 1. Point number 2, this angel holds up his hands to heaven. Point number 3, he swears by the one who lives forever and ever. Point number 4, he said it shall be for a time, times, and a half, which is really 3.5 times. Point number 5, the book is shut up and sealed till the time of the end. And point number 6, Daniel is told that he is to rest, but at the end, he will stand in his lot. Why is this significant as we study the book of Revelation? Well, I wanted to look at what we see when we go to Revelation chapter 10 and verse 1. Please remember, in our studies, we are at chapters 8 and 9. We are looking at the 7 trumpets. And suddenly we come to chapter 10, and this is what we see. Reading from verses 1 to 6. "And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and the rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. And he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea, and his left foot on the earth. And the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven, and sware by him that liveth forever and ever, that there should be time no longer." I don't know if you have been paying attention, but if you were, something should begin to strike you. Let me go over the main points of what we just read. Revelation 10. Point number 1, an angel stands on the sea and on the earth. Point number 2, he holds up his hand to heaven. Point number 3, he swears by the one who lives forever. Point number 4, he says there will be time no longer, or as it reads in some translations, there will be delay no longer. Point number 5, he has a little book open in his hand. And when you go to the end of that chapter, you see point number 6. John is told that he must prophesy again. Now, I hope you were paying attention, because if you were, you will notice a striking similarity to what we read in Daniel chapter 12. Let me just highlight these similarities again. Daniel 12, an angel stands on the river. Revelation 10, the angel stands on the sea and on the earth. He's not just standing on water. Now he's standing on the earth as well. And this suggests that the scope of his message is greater. The first one was standing on the river. This one is standing both on the sea and on the land. This message is for the whole world. The second point, the angel in Daniel held up his hand to heaven. This one in Revelation 10, he holds up his hand to heaven. Point number 3, the one in Daniel swore by the one who lives forever and ever. The one in Revelation does the same thing. He swears by the one who lives forever. Point number 4, the one in Daniel says it shall be for 3.5 times. The one in Revelation says there will be time no longer. Point number 5, the one in Daniel is told to shut up the book and seal the book. The one in Revelation, there is a little book that is open. Point number 6, Daniel is told that he is to rest and he will stand in his lot at the end of the days. John is told that he must prophesy again. Now, if you have a rational mind, a mind that is sensitive to spiritual things, surely you must recognize that these two prophecies, these two passages are parallel. What Daniel was told to shut up until the time of the end is open here in Revelation. That is why, as we come to Revelation chapter 10, we go to the book of Daniel. Why does God take us to the book of Daniel here at this point in Revelation? As a matter of fact, it's right in the middle of the 7 trumpets. Let me just remind you of the significance of the trumpets, and I'll show you why it does not make sense for this little book of Daniel to be opened at this point. I'll show you why, okay? What I'm saying, it may sound strange, but just pay attention and I'll explain, and you will see that what I'm saying makes perfect sense. Now, remember, we pointed out that the trumpets represent a time when there is no more grace, or we would phrase it this way, it is the close of probation. That means that nobody can be saved after this point. The entire planet has heard the gospel message. Every person has made up his mind. The door of mercy is shut forever. That's what the 7 trumpets are. They are the 7th seal when grace has come to an end. We know that it is the end of grace because, first of all, there is silence in heaven. When the 7th seal is opened, there's silence in heaven. Second, the 7 angels prepare to blow. Thirdly, an angel comes and he offers much incense. Incense represents the righteousness of Christ with the prayers of the saints. Then the angel fills the censer with fire and he throws it to the earth. No more mercy, no more incense, no more righteousness of Christ to save anybody. It is the end of grace. The 5th point is that we see when the trumpets begin to blow, the earth, the sea, the trees, and the green grass are all hurt. If you will remember, in Revelation 7, the angels were commanded not to hurt the earth, nor the sea, nor the trees, until God's servants were sealed. So God's servants have been sealed. Now the earth and the sea and the trees are hurt. This means salvation is over. There's no more sealing. No other person is going to come into the kingdom from that point. Those who are sealed are the ones who cannot be hurt. Everybody else will be hurt by these catastrophes. We may remember that Revelation 9 verses 3 to 4 says, "And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads." So this is one of the trumpets. This is actually trumpet number 5. And notice what it says. The only people who will not be hurt are those who have the seal of God. Everybody else is subject to the torment that these locusts will bring. And it specifically said that these locusts should not hurt the grass, the earth, nor any green thing, but only the men who have not the seal of God in their foreheads. This again emphasizes the point that we are looking at a time when grace has been ended. Now, here's the question that we really want to answer. What is the opening of this little book? This little book of Daniel. It's the book of Daniel. Daniel's book was shut up and sealed till the time of the end. Now in Revelation 10, you see the angel coming down and he has a little book open in his hand. It is the book of Daniel. What is it doing in this place? Right in the middle, as a matter of fact, right near the end of the 7 trumpets. Now remember, the 7 trumpets represent the time when grace has ended. Nobody else is to be saved after this point. What is the point of opening the book of Daniel at this point and giving a message to the world at this point that was hidden? Why? At this point when nobody else can be saved. Just asking yourself this question will lead you to a certain conclusion. And this is the conclusion. This opening of this book of Daniel, it does not belong at this spot. Remember where it is. You have trumpet number 1, hurts the earth. Trumpet number 2, hurts the sea. Trumpet number 3, hurts the rivers. Trumpet number 4, hurts the sun and the moon and the stars. Trumpet number 5, the bottomless pit is open. Trumpet number 6, the angels which are bound in the river Euphrates are loosed. Then you see the opening of the book. The angel comes down with the book of Daniel. Right here after trumpet number 6. Why at this point? It does not make sense because at this point, nobody else is to be saved. As a matter of fact, if you look at what happens after the book is opened, you will see why it doesn't make sense. John is told, you must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues. And after this, we see God's 2 witnesses going out to prophesy for 3.5 years. In the middle of the trumpets, it doesn't make sense. Why does God put this chapter 10 and a part of chapter 11, why does he put it right here in the middle of the trumpets? One thing we should have learned by now, it is that when we find a hard question, we will always find the answer. And the answer will always make sense. God puts the question and then he answers the question. You will recall when we looked at the 144,000, it was the same thing. They were out of place, out of sequence. But God brought them in at this point because he wanted to make an important point. And it's the same thing. Let's examine these trumpets in connection with this little book and see exactly why God put it in this place. Now, first of all, let me establish a little more clearly that it's actually in the wrong place. Let me give you one more evidence, okay? First of all, we go through the sequence of the trumpets. Trumpet number 1, trumpet number 2, trumpet number 3, then trumpet number 4. How many trumpets left? There are 3 trumpets remaining. Now look at what is said in regard to these 3 remaining trumpets. Revelation 8 and verse 13. Listen to what is said. John says, and I beheld, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels which are yet to sound. So the last 3 trumpets are described as 3 woes. For some reason, God refers to them as woes. Now, how do we know there are 3? Because the angel says, woe, woe, woe. And then he says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth because of these 3 trumpets that are still to sound. We are going to see in a moment that God deliberately names them as woes. And I think it means that these last 3 trumpets are going to be of far greater devastation, are going to do far more damage than the first 4 trumpets. Let's move on. So the last 3 trumpets, number 5, number 6, and number 7, are called 3 woes. So trumpet number 5 is the first woe. That is when these terrible locust-like creatures are released upon the earth. Trumpet number 6, the second woe, that is when the 4 angels that are bound up in the great river Euphrates are released. What comes behind this trumpet number 6? Of course, it's trumpet number 7. What comes behind woe number 2? Of course, it's woe number 3. But instead of woe number 3, instead of trumpet number 7, what we find is the angel comes down with the book of Daniel. And he tells John, look, eat this book. It's going to make your mouth sweet. It's going to make your belly bitter. Now, in our next presentation, we're going to examine this incident far more closely, the eating of the book and what happens to John. But this incident comes right between woe number 2 and woe number 3. Right between trumpet number 6 and trumpet number 7. Why? Why does God drop it in at this spot? That is the question. And if we don't understand the reason why this happens, the trumpets can confuse us very badly. Because clearly, when the book is opened, there is still a message of salvation. Because if you read what happens, the book is open and John is told you must prophesy again. And then God says, I give power to my 2 witnesses, and they preach for 3.5 years. Why would they be preaching? Why would John prophesy? Why is John told to prophesy again if we are at a time when there is no more salvation? Clearly, this incident does not belong in the middle of the trumpets. But God puts it here. It is here by design. God puts it here because he wants to say something to us. Now, just one more point to make it clear that this incident does not belong here. When you go to Revelation 11 and verse 14, look at what it says. It says, the second woe is past. Which trumpet is that again? Second woe, that's trumpet number 6. Remember, the last 3 woes are 5, 6, and 7. So Revelation 11 verse 14 says, the second woe is past. Look what it says now. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Why does God emphasize that the third woe follows the second woe quickly? Why? He wants you to know that there is no gap between number 2 and number 3. Between trumpet number 6 and number 7, there is no gap. When trumpet number 6 ends, trumpet number 7 comes quickly. There is no place in there for the 2 witnesses and the little book and the opening of the book. God is telling you, this little book, even though I put it at this place, this is not where it belongs. Remember, John eats the book. He must prophesy again. God gives power to his 2 witnesses for 3.5 years. That's a long time. And yet God says the third woe comes quickly. There is no gap. That's the point I want to make. So why does God put it at this place? Right here in chapter 10, there is the answer as well. Let's go back to the beginning of the chapter and let's look at what is said in the first 7 verses. Revelation 10, verses 1 to 7. I know we already read most of this passage, but I'm going to read it again because I want to make another point this time. Look at what it says. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. And he had in his hand a little book open. There we have it again, the little book of Daniel is open. And he set his right foot upon the sea and his left foot on the earth, meaning that his message is for the whole planet, sea and land. And the angel which I saw stand upon the sea and upon the earth lifted up his hand to heaven and sware by him that liveth for ever and ever that there should be time no longer, or that there should be delay no longer. In other words, the time for which God's people have waited for ages, the time that Daniel was told to seal up his book for, this time has come to an end. There's going to be no more delay. Look what it says in the next verse. But in the days of the voice of the 7th angel, when he shall begin to sound, or when he begins to blow his trumpet, what happened? Let's read on. The mystery of God should be finished, as he hath declared to his servants, the prophets. This is the point, brothers and sisters. This is a point, my friends. When the 7th angel sounds, remember we have 7 angels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 6 is the second woe. When you come to the third woe, which is the 7th trumpet, he blows his trumpet. What happens? The mystery of God is finished. The finishing of the mystery is the key thing that helps us to understand what is going on. Something is to happen. Something is to happen when the third woe comes. Something is to happen when trumpet number 7 is blown. Something of great importance. Something, I would say, this is the hope of the ages. It's about to be finally fulfilled. And so when you come to trumpet number 6, God says, stop, hold on a minute, hold on a minute. Let's go back and see what takes us up to this point. What takes us to the place where the mystery of God is finally finished? What is it that takes us to this place? What is the key to the finishing of the mystery? So when the mystery is about to be finished, trumpet number 6 blows, God stops the action and he takes us back in time, back to something that happened before the trumpets began, which is what? Obviously, we are talking about the opening of the book of Daniel. But even before we go there, let us understand what is this mystery of God that is to be finished when the 7th trumpet blows. In Ephesians 1, verses 9 to 10, look at what the Apostle Paul says here. He says, having made known unto us the mystery of his will. There is that word, the mystery of his will. According to his good pleasure, which he hath purposed in himself, and here it is, that in the dispensation of the fullness of times, he might gather together in one all things in Christ, both which are in heaven and which are in earth, even in him. This is the great mystery of the ages, the great hidden secret of how God will gather all things to himself in Jesus Christ. This is what happens when the seventh angel blows his trumpet. You will recall in our last presentation, when the seventh angel sounded his trumpet, there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our God and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. This is the end of the conflict of the ages. And so this is the finishing of the mystery. What is it that takes us to this place? Is there some key? Is there something that goes into the lock of secrets? Something that is inserted into the stream of time. And when it enters, it becomes a great catalyst to bring about this finishing of the mystery. I believe this is what God is saying. God says, okay, trumpet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Stop. Hold on a minute. Something great is about to happen. Something for the ages is about to take place. But before it happens, let me show you how we came to this place. Let me show you the key to this great event. This is what we see as we look at Revelation chapter 10 here, and we see the opening of this little book, which is the book of Daniel. Now, am I exaggerating? Let me just read a couple of things from the book of Daniel here to emphasize and highlight what I'm trying to say. First of all, let me read one verse. This verse alone, if there were none other in the book of Daniel, would make me very, very interested in understanding what is being said. But there are many of them. But let me read this one. Daniel 12, verses 9 to 10. Listen to this. And he said, go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried. But the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. When are we talking about? What point in time does this verse apply to? Notice what it says. The words are closed up and sealed till the time of the end. And at this time it says, none of the wicked will understand. Will understand what? Will understand the message in the book of Daniel. But the wise will understand. Look, if there was no other verse in the book of Daniel, this one alone would make me very, very interested in finding out what is there in the book of Daniel that is so important. I absolutely, of course, don't want to be among the wicked. I absolutely, of course, want to be among the wise who understand. That is God's plan for his children. Every Christian should be wholeheartedly eager, intensely concerned to understand what is this that is hidden in the book of Daniel. Remember the significance. This is the key to the finishing of the mystery. In other words, God took a message and he locked it up in time. He put a treasure inside a box, and the name of this box was the book of Daniel. God locked it up and sealed it there, and God says, nobody will understand this until the time of the end. It's a treasure that is locked by the key of time. But in the time of the end, the wise will understand. Are we living in the time of the end? Well, you have to answer that question. But as for me, when I look at the things that are happening in the world today, how could anybody who is a conscious Christian, who understands the prophecies, how could anybody doubt that we have come to that time in the stream of the ages, that time that God refers to as the time of the end? My friends, it is time to understand the book of Daniel. In Daniel 12 and verse 4, the angel says to Daniel, but thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and the knowledge shall be increased. Now, when it says many will run to and fro, it does not mean traveling around by automobile or by airplanes or even by spaceships, whatever. It doesn't mean any of this. When it says many will run to and fro, it doesn't mean people doing a 100-meter dash or running a marathon. The Amplified Bible gives us probably a better understanding. Here's what it says in the Amplified Bible. But you, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end. Then many shall run to and fro and search anxiously through the book, and the knowledge of God's purposes as revealed by his prophets shall be increased and become great. The running to and fro is not physically running about. What it means is that many people will start to study the prophecies of Daniel and Revelation. They will study these prophecies and knowledge shall be increased. By the grace of God, this is what is happening now as we are studying together in this book of Revelation. Knowledge of God's purposes is being increased. I want to emphasize, how can I exaggerate the importance of what I'm saying? If you have the heart of a Christian, if you have a heart that desires to know the purposes of God, how can you understand that God has given us a message locked up in a book? Yes, but God promises to open this book at the time of the end, a book containing a message that is to be a great catalyst, a key to God's final message to be preached on this world. How can you be a Christian? How can you even be a conscious human being and not care to understand? This ought to take hold of our imagination, to take hold of our hearts, to take hold of our entire being, and this should become the subject of intense study, that we may understand God's message and that we may be ready to share it. As John was told, to every nation, kindred, and tongue, and people. God put the opening of this book of Daniel at this place in the 7 trumpets because he wants us to understand the key to the finishing of the mystery is the opening of the book of Daniel. What is this message? I think we have already looked at this a little bit in our previous studies, but in our next presentation, where we will look at the finishing of the mystery, we're going to explore this more closely, in greater detail. I invite you to join me in the next study in our series. I believe you will be blessed as we examine the message of the book of Daniel and the finishing of the mystery. God bless you, keep you, and continue to guide us into all truth as we study together.
Long ago a mystery sealed, a prophet's vision truth concealed. Daniel's book closed many days, awaiting the light to pierce the haze. An angel stood by the river's flow, hands to heaven he made a vow. 3 times and a half till the moment's nigh, when the book would open and knowledge fly. The sealed book speaks, its time has come, revealing truths of the Holy One. Sweet to taste, yet bitter inside, the final prophecy goes worldwide. In Revelation, the vision returns, a little book whose pages burn. The angel swears there's time no more. Trumpet 7 reveals heaven's door. The mystery unfolds, the plan is clear. All things in Christ will soon draw near. John eats the book, its sweetness sings, yet bitter pain the journey brings. The sealed book speaks, its time has come, revealing truths of the Holy One. Sweet to taste, yet bitter prophecy goes worldwide. The apostles preached in days of old, now a final mission, the story retold. A people rise with the gospel flame, to every nation proclaim his name. The angels cry, a trumpet sound, God's mystery ends, the lost are found. Through Daniel's book the key unfolds, the secret plan the ages hold. One last revival, a final plea, the gospel's call to humanity. The time has come, the end is near. Prophesy again, let the world hear. The sealed book speaks, its time has come, revealing truths of the Holy One. Sweet to taste, yet bitter inside, the final prophecy goes worldwide. Oh, Daniel's message now revealed, the time of the end, the book unsealed. Through joy and sorrow, the call is plain. Prophesy once more, in Jesus' name.